What if the UFOs we see are just humans from the future? Why do the stars only turn on at night? All of these questions you can find the answer to on This Paranormal Life! Hello listeners and welcome back to This Paranormal Life, the comedy paranormal podcast where every week myself, Rory Powers, and my co-investigator, Kit Greer-Mulvanna, a loose cannon, a wild man, a psycho, we sit down and we investigate a paranormal case and come to the conclusion as to whether or not it really is paranormal.
They call me the cockerel. You don't know what noise I'm gonna make now. Ow! I'm a loose cannon.
Why do they call you the cockerel if they never know what noise you're gonna make next? Sure, wouldn't it be a chicken?
Because I wake up at dawn and take everyone with me.
They call me the Wolfman. Kid, we are back again. It is a Tuesday, and we are here to dive into a brand new paranormal tale. How are you feeling today? Are you ready to experience what I have in store for you?
Absolutely, Rory. Yeah, we're kind of, I feel like we're well into 2025 now. I feel like limbered up. I feel like
loose.
You know what I'm saying? I feel, my neck is tight. My neck is tight from kind of scrolling and being addicted to my phone. But otherwise, every other way, I feel limbered up. I do feel sad. Because I'm coming out of winter.
Shouldn't still feel sad because it's February. Shouldn't have felt sad in January, to be fair. But you should at this point. The sun's getting a little.
Other than that,
brighter.
Feel loosey goosey. And I
sort of think that's more of a nervous tick at this point.
But no, but
I'm feeling pretty good.
I do feel pretty good. I have this sense of like you get to the end of the year and then it's kind of like you kind of wind down and then it was like getting the machine up and operational again.
Yeah, that's the rusty cogs kind of turning in the machine, and then before you know it, we're here.
Yeah, we're kind of chasing our tail at the start of the year. So I feel like we're flowing now. Like I feel like sometimes we talk about the podcast awards. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like this is the point. We're hitting our stride. This is where the awards season entries come from. The paranormal cases that are so good and beautiful sounding that we enter them into award shows around the world.
I like this optimism and I like this energy because, we've investigated quite a few cases so far in 2025. You gotta stop doing that for sure.
We're not going to be able to enter it if that keeps
They call me Goose. That's my nickname. We've had a great variety of cases so far. We've had alien cases, a lot of cryptid cases, but I don't believe in 2025 we have yet covered a case of spirits and the occult.
That's negligence, isn't it?
It kind of is that we've left it this long, because for some people, that's their favorite part of the paranormal world.
Yeah, it's kind of the most famous bit, isn't it, really?
So that's what we're gonna do today. Today our story is one of spirits, possession, and the dangers of the occult.
One more time?
Of the occult.
Got it.
I'm hoping there's some cool sound effects layered on top of that.
If not, we're going to sound like a bloody Egypt.
It's the tale of the Watseka Wonder, a young woman who, against her will, started to become possessed with the spirits of the dead.
Is Watseka? Is that what you said?
Watseka.
Where's that?
That is in Illinois, in the States.
Okay, got it.
We are going to dive right into today's story after a quick word from today's sponsors and a reminder you can get every episode of this podcast ad-free on patreon.com/This Paranormal Life. Our story today revolves around one woman, Lurancy Vennum. Lurancy was born around 1874 in a small town called Watseka in Illinois. Very little is written about her early childhood, but by her 13th birthday, Lurancy was a household name in Watseka, appearing in national newspapers across the country. But what was so special about this girl? Well, as she aged, she began to possess strange occult abilities with otherworldly powers. But the effect they had on her body led many to question, were these gifts from God or the devil? Lurancy first appeared in the historical record in July of 1887 when she was only 13 years old. It was at this point in her life where her health took a sudden turn for the worst. She began to complain about being unable to sleep because every night she would wake to the sound of somebody desperately calling her name. Lurancy Vennum, we call to you. Let us in. When she searched her room, no one was there. From that point onward, things only got worse. She started to get severe stomach pains so intense that they would put her in a trance-like state where she claimed she could see spirits floating around her.
Wow.
That's one hell of a tummy ache.
I don't know if a Rennie is going to help that.
No. When I was a kid, the worst tummy ache I ever got, which I've talked about on the podcast before, was when I accidentally swallowed that gobstopper whole.
That feels more like a medical emergency than a tummy ache.
It's like, it wasn't quite a tummy ache. The gobstopper sort of got lodged in my throat and I couldn't breathe for several minutes. And I started seeing spirits and ghosts floating around me.
You know, it reminds me of something I was thinking about the other day. There's parts of the world where, you know, over the last thousands of years, they would have had like religious ceremonies with psychedelic plants and potions. But there's just parts of the world, like specifically regions of Africa, where they just actually don't have access to any mind-altering plants. And instead, they just use poison. I think it's got a phrase. It's like an endurance ritual or something like that.
Wow.
I don't remember. That's not exactly right. But you would just get a mitt, like an oven mitt, and fill it full of fire ants.
Okay.
And then just kind of put your hand in the mitt until you start tripping.
That's not even poison. That's just basically the box from Dune.
Yeah.
Where you put your hand in and endure
A lot
it.
like the box from Dune. That's one example. Another one would be, just getting bitten by a snake or something, and then you'll be so delirious you'll have visions.
Right, licking toads.
Yeah.
All of that kind of stuff.
All that kind of stuff.
I might start referring to trips to the pub with my friends as poison endurance.
Right.
That sounds pretty cool because that is essentially alcohol, which is just drinking a certain amount of poison till your brain gets fuzzy.
Yeah. I don't think that's the point of drinking alcohol, for your brain to get fuzzy, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, well, the point of eating a gobstopper is to swallow it too. I didn't do that right either, did I? I'm lucky I didn't exist in the universe of Willy Wonka. I wouldn't have made it out of the car park. He'd be like, "Where's the fourth little boy?" They're like resuscitating me in the middle of the crowd. They're like, "That's not even Wonka chocolate. He brought that from home and it killed him."
Rory's a pain in the ass to go to the pub with. On his third pint, he's like, "I see a cloud shaped like an eagle." They're like, "Oh, he's having visions
He's
again."
having visions.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
After a few pints, I'm like, "I see the golden arches." It's like, he wants to go to McDonald's, apparently.
Put him in a taxi.
Now, of course, it wasn't long before the community heard about all these symptoms. It was a small town in 1874. News traveled fast. How fast? Specifically, the speed of horse, because this was before the use of the telephone. As her symptoms got worse, they also got a lot more paranormal. After suffering some particularly bad epileptic fits, Lurancy had an interesting update for her family.
"Are you okay, darling? You had us worried."
"I am, Father, for I have returned from heaven, where I conversed with the angels."
Yo.
Lurancy said that during her trance, she had visited heaven and even spoken with angels. In true old-timey fashion, instead of taking the time to understand her condition and find ways to help, local doctors advised that the family quietly ship her off to an insane asylum.
Oh, God.
"Do you want to hear what the angel said, Daddy?" "Yeah, sure. Well, can we do it in the car?" Yeah. Let's do it in the car. "Where are we going?" "Tell me more about heaven. Tell me more about heaven. This sounds really great."
Oh, God. It really was a different time in human history, wasn't it? I mean, I'm not naive enough to think that maybe that much has changed. I think if you still talk about angels, people will, let's say, not take you very seriously.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it feels cruel to lock up a little girl, doesn't it?
Yeah. 13 years old? I feel like kids who are 13 say all kinds of crazy shit.
Right.
You know? That isn't a reason to put them in an insane asylum. That's a very dramatic step. But again, this was a long time ago. Parenting was very different. But before the family could make their decision, there was a knock on the door. It was a neighbor named Asa Roth. Don't forget that name, Roth. It's going to be important later in our story. Roth.
Not Roth. Roth?
Roff.
Okay.
Roth. Asa Roth had heard of Lurancy's symptoms and decided personally to visit the family. My name is Asa B. Roth. I heard the stories about your daughter, the dreams, her visions, and I believe I might be of assistance.
Don't worry, Mr. Roth. We've got it under control. We're just about to ship her off to the nut house.
No! Please, you don't understand what you're dealing with.
Oh, and you do?
That's right. Because a decade ago, the same thing happened to my daughter. Kid, what is happening in Watseka, Illinois? Daughters being struck down with paranormal abilities and shipped off to nut houses?
Does anyone in this story have a normal name? Watseka Town, Watsekaville. We got Asa B. Roth, who's a man, by the way. I don't think anyone expected
He
that.
was in the nut house from 89 to 91.
And then Little Miss Venom and her switchblades or whatever the
Lurancy Yeah, it was a different time, different
Lurancy.
names. Old-timey names are weird. This case would be less believable if their name was Chuck and Mike, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I just would be able to stay focused on the actual beats of the story. This is fine. Okay, got it. No, it's fine.
Roth claimed that his daughter, Mary Roth, suffered from the exact same illness more than a decade ago, so he knew exactly what the Vennum family were going through and how bad it could get. My daughter, Mary, her life was complicated. Her trances started when she was an infant, and no doctor could ever find a cause. Of course, they were only the beginning. As she grew older, her powers became stronger. They allowed her to manifest clairvoyant abilities. Sorry, I'm choking up a little bit. See, I get emotional when I
Is she still
talk about
alive?
it.
Like, would your cure work?
She's dead, but
Okay.
you didn't know that yet. I'm going to tell you that in a second. Shut up now, because you've interrupted my speech.
Well,
This was actually
don't be
supposed to
rude.
be
Don't be
quite
rude.
a dramatic point in the story.
Okay.
We believed she had powers. Problem is, no one else believed it. So we shipped her off to the nut house. That's right.
You did exactly what we were planning on doing.
And I'm aware that is a term that is insensitive in 2025, but seeing as now we are in 1873, I see nothing wrong with it, frankly.
Hell, if you let me keep talking, I'm gonna drop a F-bomb, R-bomb, all
kinds of bombs. My daughter died in that asylum, and my hope is that your daughter won't suffer the same horrible fate. Asa Roth went on to say that after his daughter Mary's death, he started studying spiritualism to better understand what she was going through. Way too late for a start, buddy. Way too late.
Classic dad parenting, by the way. Wait till your kids are already dead before you're like, all right, cracks knuckles, time to weigh in.
Yeah. The dad is like 50 years old talking to his son, and he's like, you know what? I've been thinking about it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with two men loving each other. And it's like, cool, I wish you'd said that at my wedding 25 years ago. It's way too late to come to that realization, Dad. After studying, Asa Roth actually went on to becoming a devout spiritualist. And he believed that his daughter Mary Roth had not been insane, she had been gifted, just like Lurancy. So he begged the Vennum family not to send Lurancy away to the asylum and instead bring in a spiritualist physician who could help. And believe it or not, they did. Before long, E. Winchester Stevens had arrived at the home. That's a normal name. I will not hear you slander that name.
Not super normal, but it's not that weird.
This was apparently still around the time where, as a family, you would just invite dudes to come live with you if they could solve problems.
That's right. We've seen it a lot over
Yeah.
the years. Why does the spiritualist have the most normal name of all?
Right?
It's like, then, a Satanist preacher who grew up under a rock under a bridge with many trolls. He was called Larry.
Yeah, he should be called like Cosmo Octavius or something insane.
Cosmo, and he talks like this.
Yeah, but his name's just Winchester Stevens. But as we know, Kit, getting a spiritualist involved can go either way. Sometimes you're poking a sleeping paranormal bear, and instead of getting better, things can get a lot worse. The Venoms decided to put all of their trust in the hands of this spiritualist, who was brought in to examine Lurancy's symptoms and see if he could make sense of what was happening. And I'm not going to spoil the ending for you, but he did end up writing a whole book about it. In his book, Stevens said that Lurancy's character would change suddenly, from sad and sullen to mystic, where she described joyous trips to heaven and visits with angels. She would often speak in different voices, launching into different personalities of recently deceased individuals. These deceased individuals included an old woman named Katrina Hogan and a young man named Willie Canning, who Lurancy both disliked and on a number of occasions called them evil. I guess that's the thing, the good spirits, they don't want to come back. They're in a pretty happy place now. So anytime a child is being possessed, it's really the bad guys that want another chance.
Right, yeah.
It's like, where are the good spirits? They're fine. They're happy. They had a good life and they don't want to possess a 13-year-old girl. It's like, well, who does? Freaks, weirdos, criminals.
Yeah, it's like I've been receiving a lot of really interesting calls from the high security prison. Yeah, a lot of people who really want to change their surroundings.
During one test, Stevens claimed that Lurancy could place her hand over a book and without looking could open the book and point to any letter that somebody named. So if you said K, she could, with her eyes closed, open the book at a random page and point to a K.
No.
This is the one you have a problem with?
No.
You're
That is not an impressive
you're like
skill.
Possessing the spirits of the dead. Yeah, that checks out. Whoa, she can point to letters? No, we draw the line here.
That is some A-grade little kid shit. That is some little kid shit you would do in the playground. But
What do you mean?
Be like, any letter, honestly, you open up the book. Here, they're like, that's not you move your finger half a centimeter. Like, there. Oh, shit, yeah, actually, it is pretty close.
Look, this is a
Whenever
doctor.
you
This is a
said
doctor.
put the hand on the book, I thought you were going to say she was going to be able to read the book through the cover by osmosis.
No,
Or
that's a little much. Oh, that'll end you in the nut house for sure. Reading books through the cover?
even finding a word would be more impressive. But
Surely the letter's more impressive because...
think how many letters are in a given... Think how many letters are even just in the footprint of a fingertip. There's like... You could find
a couple
like
for sure,
10
yeah.
letters. Like that's
and then
half the alphabet.
You've also got a little bit of grace because maybe you're pointing just under the one.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
yeah, that's true. With the voices, what about the voices? How do you explain that?
Like you're saying...
Katrina Hogan?
You're saying she'd be able to open the book and would be able to find a letter. Something which is printed hundreds of times on every single page of any book.
All right, you son of a bitch.
All right,
I don't
let's-
deserve this level of
move
skepticism
on.
right now. But one day during a day visit, things went a little bit too far. Stevens was at the Venom's home, working with Lurancy, when suddenly, her eyes rolled backwards and she slipped into a trance. Stevens waited patiently for her to come back to the room. And when she did, he could tell something was different. She had once again become possessed. But by who? When Dr. Stevens asked her to identify herself, she replied, "My name is Mary. Mary Roth."
Huh?
That's right! Asa Roth's daughter, who had also suffered with the same paranormal afflictions and died in the nut house!
There is some kind of snake eating its own tail. Yeah, like ancestors of nut jobs.
Isn't this crazy?
Yeah.
A very cool twist in the story that I didn't see coming. All of a sudden, now you got to be a little bit suspicious of the dad, Asa Roth, who's brought in a spiritualist, and it's like, you should just let the spiritualist do whatever he has to do. Bring back my daughter in the form of this child. You know, is there something sneaky going on?
Yeah, and he's going to be like, well, if you say so, I guess you should come live with us now. I guess I've got my daughter back.
Yeah,
Great.
sorry. That can't happen. Did we not tell you that could happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. When the Venom family asked if they could have their daughter back, the spirit said, no.
Yeah, that tracks.
Unlike the other spirits who had possessed Lurancy, Mary Roth was not keen to give up control. She said that she would retain control of the body until Lurancy's soul was healed. Whatever that means. I feel like as the dad, you'd probably be like, cool, is there like an ETA on that? Or
Yeah.
I don't know how it works in the spirit world. Soul healing? Is that like taking a car in for a checkup?
Yeah.
Or is this more like a home renovation deal? Do I have a daughter still?
I was going to say, is this like standard, like teenager saying they're sick? It's like, all right, what'll heal you? Xbox 360.
Ice cream.
Yeah.
Mary doesn't want it, but Lurancy says I should have ice cream, so I guess maybe yes. I think it would heal the soul a little bit. Yeah, there's really no rules in this situation. I mean, we are kind of joking, but Mary also basically said, while we're waiting for her soul to be healed, I might go see some of my old friends and family.
What? No way.
Yeah.
The bluff would be called so fast.
You'd think, right?
You'd think, because the old friends would be like, hey, remember me? And she's like, oh, yes, Sandra, of course, sorry.
Of course.
The spirit world makes my memory hazy.
Have you seen me pointed letters in a book yet? Check this out.
Have you got any ice cream?
Well, wanting to see how far this would go, Dr. Stevens and the Venoms decided to tell Asa Roth that essentially his daughter was back.
Okay, don't do that. It's so irresponsible.
Well, when you call them, you gotta make sure you say the whole sentence really quickly. It's like, hey, your daughter is back in the form of a spirit in my daughter. Like, you don't want to be like, hey, I got some great news, buddy. It's about your daughter. She's back.
Yeah.
He'd be like,
my God. What?
She didn't die in the nut house?
Yeah.
Oh my God, she's alive?
Ooh, sorry.
Where is she? I can pick her up now. I've got nothing on.
No.
Oh my God.
It's more, so I'm actually talking about your neighbor.
Alice!
No.
Alice, she's alive!
Yeah, no, all right.
The prayers have been answered, Alice.
Let's involve more people.
Oh my God.
I'm talking about...
we were right to not redecorate the room, Alice.
Miss
We
Vennum.
were right to not give up hope. She's alive and she's well. We kept everything just as it was when she left. I can't believe this.
Oh, the line's
Where's my little girl?
The line's getting hazy.
Where's my little girl?
I'm going through a tunnel. I'm going through a tunnel.
Tunnels don't exist yet.
I'll be in touch real quick. I gotta move town. I gotta move one town over. Bye.
When Asa Roth arrived, Lurancy, who is now Mary, burst into tears, becoming frantic and overwhelmed, like when a dog sees their owner. She demanded that she be allowed to stay with the Roths until Lurancy returned to her own body.
Oh, God.
And surprisingly, her family were like, sure. They just gave up their possessed daughter to live with this man in his house.
Yeah. It does feel like owning your children was a different vibe back then.
Yeah, you really owned them.
Like whenever you watch like an old movie, a guy would just come to town and he'd be like, I've got a traveling circus. And they'd be like, what do you want?
Yeah,
I've
you
got
can take 3 of them.
3 sons? That sound good? Just for you to stop talking to me, take 2 sons. They're like, Dad, really? Yeah, come on, you need to go to work at some point anyway. So
Exactly. You send the money back home to your old man.
Talk to me when you're 40.
Yes, just so everyone is clear of what is happening right now, Lurancy Vennum, this 13-year-old girl,
it is confusing,
has become possessed
Yep.
by the spirit of Mary Roth,
Yep.
another girl who passed away a decade earlier, but who is the daughter of Asa Roth, the man who suggested that the family hire this spiritualist.
Yeah. So do you think in the Netflix original of this, I think Asa he would be at this point using some lighting and motif music, he would be revealed to be maybe not evil, but he kind of had masterminded this whole thing. Do you think he had a sense that there was a possibility he could summon his daughter back? Yeah,
in the horror movie version of this, I think the story is a dad who lost his daughter made a deal with the devil to bring her back. And the devil's like, cool, all you need is a vessel.
A host. Yep.
He's heard about this other child who has kind of clairvoyant and paranormal abilities.
So she's her defenses are weakened. She's ready to be
taken over. So he's gone in there and kind of incepted the family into thinking that this is their idea.
Got it.
And he's hired this essentially dark magician to come in. He's like, oh, don't worry. He's a doctor. He's a spiritualist, but he's a chill guy. He takes things really seriously. He's coming around the corner here. And he just he's got a cloak. Hello, family. Show me the child. And they're like, ooh, yeah, we thought he'd at least have like a lab coat or something. Be a bit more professional, but he's like, he has a wand for sure, and a spell book.
When you think about it, the whole thing's really not okay. Like imagine, sorry to be crass, but imagine that Asa, in this case, imagine it was instead of daughters, he had a dog. And he didn't take good care of the dog. And one day he let the dog off the leash and it got hit by a car. Sure. And then he just walked around to his neighbor, went, how about you give me that dog of yours?
Your dog looks a lot like my dog.
I think it actually could be my dog reincarnated. It's like, you had your chance.
Yeah.
You proved yourself to, I'm not trying to victim blame here.
No,
Who knows
no.
what the circumstances were. But it's like, that is your life and your karma. You can't go around taking another child and using it as a vessel.
Yeah. I will say, I believe the assumption here is, like all of these possessions, it will eventually wear off. And
Yeah, of course he tells you that.
Lurancy would come back to her form once her, quote, soul is healed, whatever the that means.
Yeah.
And then Lurancy would return to her original family. I think that's the unwritten kind of...
But as you say, is it like a construction job? Oh, the healing's running over budget and over time by about 70 years? What? That's her whole lifespan.
So I don't know. There is a lot of trust being put in the rules in today's case.
This is the 1800s. Just loan your children to other families.
Why not? And look, I'm as skeptical as you are, Kit, about this whole ordeal. But everyone in this thing really believed that Lurancy was possessed by Mary Roth. And you kind of can't blame them. According to both Stevens and the Cincinnati Enquirer, while living in her new home with the Roths, Lurancy was able to remember numerous events and people from Mary's life. Roth's extended family and friends would enter the room, and Lurancy would greet them as if she'd known them for years.
For it being the 1800s, this is a very 2025 living situation. It's like a polycule of like, so this is my daughter who's actually inhabiting the spirit of my neighbor's dead child, currently just for the summer. And she's coming to stay for a little bit. It's like, who the are all you people to each other? Like, why can't we just be a normal family?
Yeah, and also I do want to point out, we talk here about Lurancy being able to greet them and talk to the family and friends as if she'd known them for years.
Right.
Again, I think that was easier in the olden days.
Yeah.
I think there were like 4 jobs: a butcher, a baker, and a candlestick maker. Those were all the 3 jobs you could have. So kind of throw a dart, you could almost guess what anyone was.
Sure.
So being able to know a lot about someone's life probably wasn't as hard. Whereas nowadays, if someone walks in and you're like, I think you're a blacksmith. And it's like, I run the social media accounts for a multinational corporation. It's like, oh, I was a little off with that one.
Yeah,
you can get more wrong.
Was your
days.
father a blacksmith? No, also social media accounts for a large multinational corporation.
I could sense that.
The blacksmithing of marketing, yes.
Apparently, Lurancy also knew family secrets without being told them.
Yeah, okay, this is like clairvoyancy 101. We're in the proof stage. How do we prove?
Yeah.
We know without shadow of a doubt some impossible knowledge, and it usually requires, what could they say that no one else would know? It's always some shit like this.
Yeah.
A secret.
Secrets. Maybe this is such a weird situation. Maybe Asa Roth got home and was like, all right, we're home, and Lurancy just immediately goes upstairs and walks into her old bedroom.
Yeah.
Things like that. That it's like, well, that was
my
weird.
old bedroom. Oh shit! It's like she knew.
Just like I remember it. The bathtub, the toilet. It's like, you're in the wrong. You're 2 over. Of course, my old bedroom. That's our room. My old bedroom. That's the closet.
And my beautiful siblings. Bitch face. Yeah, they did used to call each other that, to be fair.
I still remember all my old toys. That's Daddy's power drill. Lurancy lived in the house for around 5 months.
Yeah, that's longer than you want.
Maybe that's how long it takes for a soul to heal. Until May 5th, where out of nowhere, Mary's voice inside of Lurancy said, "Oh shit, she's coming back.
Yeah.
I need to get back to my original family." Which was probably right as Asa Roth, the dad, was like, if you're going to be living here for 5 months, you should maybe start doing some chores around the house.
Oh, she's coming back.
I think it's time.
It's like, oh, really? We were just about to have dessert after dinner. Oh, no, she's gone now.
I'm losing her. What flavor? Oh, we only have vanilla. She's back. She's back, actually.
Oh, that's too bad because we're about to go to Disneyland tomorrow. Oh, where the she go? She's gone without a trace.
I lost her. Shit. I guess we go in the teacups. It's a small world. See if I can get her back. That'd be great.
Oh, the teacups are closed this year. She's back.
She's back. She's here. A great excuse, to be fair. I wish I'd been able to use that as a child, claiming to be possessed. And it'd be like, my demon loves vegetables, but he's not possessing me right now, so I can't eat him, Mom. I'm sorry. It's a good excuse.
I know. I think we all just said tummy bug.
Yeah. This is really taking it to the next level.
Yeah, if I didn't want to go to school, you just had to perfect your acting routine of like, holding your stomach.
Yeah. I remember when I was young and I would try and pretend to be sick to get off of school. I remember even once not wanting to go to school so much that I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to open my window and take off the covers of the blanket and I'm going to sleep in the cold so I do get sick. I was like, I'm just going to do this so I don't have to go to school tomorrow.
I'm going to lick a cat on the street to get sick.
I ate dirt to try and be ill, and all it did was make me less smart. Ironically, I needed way more school to deal with the damage that I inflicted on myself.
I'm going to sniff glue. I'm just going to become a drug addict. It's funny looking back as well because you realize that because we all remember the times we were like, yes, those suckers bought the alibi.
Yeah.
They didn't. They obviously knew you were lying. The only times you won were when they were too tired to fight with you and they just gave in.
Yeah. They knew.
Obviously.
They completely knew. Yeah, my house was, I wouldn't say strict, but our rule was if you were off sick from school, you were only allowed to watch educational television. So it was like, you can be home, but you're not going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
The only thing was, though, they were like, okay, you're only allowed to watch all these channels, which was like the History Channel, the Discovery Channel, and a couple other ones.
Yeah.
Parents didn't know it at the time. Those channels were showing some pretty crazy stuff.
Right.
I used to watch this show when I was off sick called Air Crash Investigations.
Right.
Where they basically just did dramatic reenactments of famous air crashes throughout history. And very little time was dedicated to the investigation. It was mostly just an action movie about planes exploding.
Some of that shit starred Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But I had kids that were like allowed to play video games and stuff. I was like, this isn't fair.
I think the last time I pulled a sickie successfully was when Halo 2 came out. It arrived in the post, and I think I just really meekly locked eyes with my mum, and she was like, "It's fine, you can stay off. That's fine." It's like I don't even want to have a fight about it. Just like spare me the embarrassing routine of you pretending to be sick while holding a copy of Halo 2 in its wrapper.
You're just holding the copy, looking at her, and you go. It's like, just stay home. Just stay home. Yes! Yes!
Yes!
Hell yes! Thank you, mother. It's true. The spirit of Mary inside of Lurancy said to her parent, her soul is returning to her body and will be here May 22nd, 11 o'clock.
But when was this? Was that far away?
This was said on May 4th.
Oh, that's fine.
I believe. So a couple weeks.
Okay.
It's a good heads up.
Yeah.
When the time finally arrived, the whole family waited in suspense. The clock struck 11. Lurancy's eyes fluttered, and suddenly, she was back. The family half expected her to go back to her normal life of visions and seizures, but she didn't. Mary was right. Lurancy was cured. She lived out the rest of her life as a normal, happy, healthy woman.
Wow, that was it. Simple as.
Yeah, which is what I love about this story. I don't love a lot about this story, but I do love this. Because in so many cases where we talk about someone who's possessed or having these kind of symptoms, typically what happens is there's an exorcism.
Right.
They bring in a priest, and in most cases, things get way worse.
Yeah, they die.
Or they are sent to an institution.
Yeah.
It's usually pretty dark and depressing, and the people don't live long and happy lives. Whereas in today's case, I don't know if Dr. Stevens can actually take credit for doing anything, but this case actually did resolve itself. Lurancy, as I said, grew up, got married, I think had 11 children, and just spent the rest of her life as a completely normal person, having no more symptoms or of the occult and no more kind of paranormal ability.
Yeah, she got it out of her system.
Yeah.
It sounds like. It's like, going to a summer camp or like running off to the circus being like, I don't want to see my family anymore. After 3 months, you're like, I'm good, actually. I'm going to stay with my family forever and be normal now. Like, she just shook it off.
Yeah. Just get it out of your system. It's kind of like all those people that are like, I want to see the world. Yeah. And then they go to Thailand for a week and then they come back and they're like, that's enough. I'm ready for a job. That pretty much got it out of my system. I'm ready to have 11 children.
I like Scranton now. I like Scranton just fine.
Bristol's pretty cool, actually.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, a weird story, but I'm happy to see that for once, someone who had what could have been a very tragic life with the paranormal actually end up having quite a happy one. Now, of course, some psychologists believe that this was a case of, quote-unquote, hysterical impersonation.
Here we go. Oh, 1800s, and it's a little girl. Let's just...
Yeah.
I don't even... A bit like her, I don't even have to open the book to point to the word I know they're going to use. Hysteria.
Oh, yeah, but what if it was a little boy? We need to take this thing seriously. He's communicating with the other world. No, sorry. Lurancy, that's the name of a woman. Oh, well, jeez. Cuckoo! To the nut house.
Do we have anything stronger than a lobotomy we can do just right here and now get it over with?
They wrote regarding the possession, specifically the part where she was living at the Roths' house. There was no evidence that Lurancy had knowledge that she couldn't have obtained by normal means.
Okay.
Fair. More than fair. We talk about her kind of greeting family members and really taking on the personality of Mary, this girl who doesn't exist. But I don't know. The more I investigated this case, it's all talked about quite ambiguously. I don't think Mary in her room had like an access key code to her door and Lurancy came in and went beep, boop, 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 and punched it in and went, nothing like that.
Yeah. Now I've flipped. I was, as I say, in the horror movie Netflix adaptation, I was painting Asa as the villain, the clear villain in all of this. Now I don't know who to feel sorry for, if anyone, because now I'm looking at the Roth family and you're like, what the f***? That's traumatizing. You just
so bad.
You just get a little girl who presents as your dead child for months.
Yeah.
And then you kind of live with them ostensibly, and then they're like, I'm gone now. Yeah, bye. I'm back to normal.
Yeah, that was it.
And you're like, okay, back to square one.
Well, that sucks. You ate a lot of my food, Mary. And you're actually like, yeah, your parents kind of, now they didn't have to deal with you and put up with you. It was weirdly around the time they wanted to go on holiday that you became my daughter. And I had to look after you for 5 months.
And Asa's like, well, it's sad, but it's been a really meaningful time for me, and maybe you'd like to come visit. She's like, not really. That was Mary. To be clear, Mary, not me. So I don't really want anything to do with you anymore.
I'm assuming at some point this year, kind of while we're approaching a big holiday cruise that you and Danny want to take, you're going to be like, Rory, you need to speak to my daughter, Cora. She believes she's been possessed by your daughter. I don't have a daughter. It doesn't matter. We don't know how these things work, but I think you're going to have to look after her for a couple months.
This is how I get childcare, yeah. Totally. I know it sounds crazy. I think Cora's been possessed by the spirit of your late pet cat. Haven't you, Cora? She's like, meow. You're like, this is so offensive.
Cora goes, meow. You hand her $1.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw that. You're paying her.
Cats don't eat lolly.
Yeah, look, I appreciate that there's probably a lot of depressing sides to this story, but to focus on the positives, Lurancy was cured after this insane ordeal.
Good.
And when Lurancy/Mary was leaving Asa Roth by himself, I guess, in his house, I think she left with very kind parting words. Like, this was nice. Cool to see you again, Dad.
Well, we are clinging for straw. Do you even know that?
Yeah. It is documented. Oh, I'm making up the dialogue. I don't know what she said this. I think the quote was, Mary said, like, thank you. Even though I'm going, I will always be close.
Sure.
Very like, if you're if you've lost a loved one, that's the thing you want to hear.
Yeah.
I may be going, but I'll always be here.
Yeah.
Not literally, though. Don't put me in another child. Because this was
So
weird.
you're saying there's a chance. Yeah.
This was really weird. That's not my face. This isn't my face, Daddy. Yeah, so there are positives, I would say, to today's case.
He says like, before you go, I need to put this Hoover down your throat. I'm going to trap the soul of my daughter so I can later put her in something else.
The kid's like, Mary and Lurancy both think that's Absolutely not. Look, we of course know about this story because of the book that was written eventually by the spiritualist Dr. E. Winchester Stevens. He took this thing very seriously. He wrote an entire book called the Watseka Wonder, which is the name that they gave to Lurancy. In the book, he concludes that Lurancy was, quote, the most remarkable case of spirit return and manifestation ever recorded in history.
Wow, big claims.
That is a big claim. Granted, a lot of the other cases of spirit return hadn't happened yet.
Yeah, sure.
Because this was, 1870s or something like that.
Yeah, well, I'll give it to him. I mean, it's one of the more clear-cut cases of something like this we've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm actually, knowing how old this case is, I'm actually surprised at the amount of documentation and the way the situation was approached. Granted, a lot of threatening to ship children off to insane asylums, which is not great. But people really looked at this thing seriously and took it very seriously and explored options and got in specialists. That seems like something that is a luxury to be able to afford in the late 1800s,
Yeah, it's true. Clearly, the spiritualist fellow, Winchester, amongst others, were taking it seriously.
Yeah. And obviously, it should go without saying, another cool part of the story is, this is recent enough that even though it's an old story, all of these people are real. There are photographs of them. They all existed. You can look them up. They're like real people that are documented. Even though this is old, I think there's parts of this that feel like it could be a story from like the 1500s. But it isn't. You can look up pictures of Lurancy and her family and her with her now 11 children. While the events are disputed, the people in the situation isn't, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And my mind goes to imagine being descended from Lurancy. As you said, she went on to have many children. Imagine being married to that person.
Yeah.
Always wondering if someday Mary's just going to come back for a little visit. Freak you out.
It would be a little scary. I have a picture here, actually, of Lurancy that you can... There you go, you can take a little peek.
I like to imagine she's just like... You're in the middle of a conversation. She's like, hello. And you're like, oh, okay, it's Mary. It's like really obvious. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Old-timey photo.
That's an old-timey woman, all right.
Black and white.
Sure. But she looks like she has her shit together. Her hair is neatly arranged, and she has a frilly old-timey outfit on. And she has a serious look on her face.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is a very famous story. More famous than you would even think. Even in modern day, there's been a ton of adaptations of it. People have retold the story in different forms, in movies and TV shows, and even comic books, films. I'm reading right now that the story was covered on the Travel Channel as recently as 2021. So if we're talking about the paranormal and possession, I think this is a really important case to cover.
Why did the Travel Channel just abandon travel? like you haven't covered everywhere.
That's it. Maybe they did.
Like, it's not like we're just we're done. So ghosts.
Here's a woman who traveled to heaven and back. That's pretty crazy.
Why do we accept that for the Travel Channel?
I don't know. It's like the History Channel. They were like, we never said all the history was going to be real. Some of it's dreams and theories.
The lies get way better ratings, actually, than real history.
But that's not the case on this Paranormal Life. The lies don't make the best stories.
At least we stay in our lane.
Yeah, at least at the end we'd say, by the way, this was a lie, we think.
Yeah.
Kid, I don't want to beat around the bush. I think this is a pretty easy case to tackle, cut and dry.
Sure.
What are your thoughts today on the Watseka Wonder and Lurancy's possession?
As you say, I appreciate its cut and dry nature. I appreciate how it gets to the point. I appreciate as you say, the sources and the documentation. There's no speculation here that this didn't actually happen in a sense, or that everyone involved didn't believe that it happened. The only question is whether it was really paranormal. And we do struggle with things like possessions to this day. That's why whilst mediums, possessions, and exorcisms all take place in the year of Luigi 2025, not everyone believes in them. Not even we believe in all of them, because it's one of those paranormal things that's, I guess, gone out of fashion. I don't know why that is. I suppose because it's essentially impossible to prove.
Yeah, I think the time that this takes place does it a bit of a disservice, because I think for me personally, what it would take to push this into the realms of a yes would be when Lurancy / Mary is living with her new home, her old home. Appreciate how confusing this is. Original home. If I know that they said she recognized family members, there's a few other little parts to the story that people claim. She remembered her favorite toys, etc., etc. I think I would have needed something to happen there that was more otherworldly, more strong in terms of evidence to really suggest that there was some kind of spiritual link. I do really love this idea of these two daughters suffering with the same affliction, and one daughter coming back decades later in the body of another daughter, and these people know each other. I don't know. There's something very cool here. The fact that they live close by and it's located in this one area, I really like that as well. That this is kind of some paranormal hotspot. There's some explanation that we don't know about.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting, cool story. And I think in terms of possessions and this kind of like spiritual occult genre of story, which we don't cover a lot on the podcast, this is probably one of my favorites.
Yeah. I mean, we said it ourselves, whether we think it's real or not. It's certainly almost more than any other paranormal story. It's an incredible plot for a movie. It just jumps off the page, as they say.
Yeah, so hopefully, even though presumably today is a double no, just to be clear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Double no. Hopefully you still had a great time. I know I had a great time researching and writing this episode, trying to make it as cinematic as possible. I hope that bombshell hit as hard as I wanted it to with the reveal of Mary Roth. This was a great one to just sit back and enjoy and let it unwind before you. But I also want to know what the listeners of the podcast think. Do you think that there is any truth behind the claims here that Mary Roth did, in fact, take residency inside of Lurancy? What are your thoughts on possession, exorcisms, all of this? Should we cover more episodes like this on the podcast? Let us know. You can get in touch on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube, or you can email us at thisparanormallifepodcast@gmail.com. Right there, you can suggest other cases you want us to investigate, or you can email in your own stories. Maybe at some point you were possessed by a 13-year-old girl. I want to know about it. That sounds insane. Head on over and submit all of your stories. A little sad that our first ghost story of the year was a double no.
I agree, but I think we can all take some great lessons from it, Rory. I think we can all learn from Lurancy. You know, you get pulled over by the police. Sir, do you know what speed you were doing back there? No. No, I don't.
You're going to the nut
I'm
house.
a different man now.
You're going to jail.
Pretend to be possessed.
What I've learned is, if there's any truth to this, if I'm ever hosting a case where I think Kit's going to say no, I just got to find a way to possess him for the conclusions.
Right, just for that 1 second.
Really quick, you know, blah, 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 yes, blah, blah, and then turn back into me. I give it a yes, and we're laughing.
I did think it was, it's bad when at the end of an episode, Rory asks me if it's a no with the same intonation as if we're at the pub, and he's like, pint? You're like, no, yeah, okay, we got 2 no's.
2 no's? 2 no's? Can I get 2 no's, please, mate? Cheers, thank you. Unfortunately, it is a no today, but hey, I really enjoyed this story. As I said, send in your own suggestions, your own paranormal cases, and of course, what you're going to want to do is head on over to a little place called patreon.com/thisparanormallife. That is the home of the commune. That is how this podcast is funded. It's funded by the community. It's the reason that we have been able to make this show for the last X many years, as classified. And it's also the reason we've been able to get our own little studio location classified and hire an editor named classified, of course, for his own security.
Never ask a woman their age, a man his salary, or a podcast how many years they've been running. All right? It's just not right.
Honestly, it's where we get to connect with the community and we get to release a ton of cool extra bonus content, like extra episodes, cool merchandise. So head on over if you want to support the show. That's the best place to do it. We really appreciate all the support we get on Patreon. So check it out. Head on over, patreon.com/This Paranormal Life. Yes, maybe our first ghost story / spiritual story of the year was a no. Does that mean we're not coming back next week with a double yes?
Maybe. It's a bad omen.
All right. Don't. I'm going to possess you in a second. Redo that line. But we will be back, regardless of yeses or nos, next week with another paranormal tale. We'll see you then, folks.
Ciao.